What's happening, Facebook? I am going live, as you can see, for the first time. Yes, this is my first time going live too. Yeah, as you can see, introduce. What's that? Why I say finish? I'm not finished.
I don't know. That's just saying.
Oh,
When
okay.
you finish. Oh, you got some viewers out there?
Hey, okay, introduce yourself.
The summer heat clung to the Atlanta evening air as Jokisha Brown sat in her black Mercedes SUV, admiring her freshly applied makeup in the rearview mirror. Tomorrow would be July 2nd, 2016, her 36th birthday, and she had every reason to celebrate. The talented actress and model had just finished getting her face done at the beauty salon, preparing for what should have been a night of joy and anticipation. She checked her phone one last time, perhaps scrolling through birthday wishes or confirming plans with friends. But someone else had different plans for Jokisha's evening. A figure moved through the shadows of the strip mall parking lot on Cheshire Bridge Road, approaching her vehicle with calculated precision. The person knew exactly where to find her, exactly when she would be there, because this wasn't their first encounter. This predator had been watching, waiting, planning for the perfect moment to strike. Multiple gunshots shattered the quiet night at approximately 9:15 p.m., tearing through the passenger window of her Mercedes. The sound echoed across the parking lot as witnesses nearby initially mistook the gunfire for 4th of July fireworks. Jokisha Dynasty Brown, who had survived so much in her 35 years, slumped forward in her seat. The birthday celebration she had planned would never happen. Here's the most shocking part of this story that will leave you questioning everything you think you know about domestic violence. This wasn't a random act of violence or a robbery gone wrong. Just 3 months earlier, Jokisha had escaped this same predator by making a desperate leap from a moving vehicle while he was transporting her to another location. She had reported him to police, obtained warrants for his arrest, and done everything the system told her to do. Yet somehow, Alfredo Capote was still free to hunt her down like an animal. Jokisha Brown wasn't just another statistic in domestic violence reports. She was a licensed real estate agent with Keller Williams, a successful model who had graced magazine covers, and an aspiring actress with roles in films like Queen Pin and television shows, including Fatal Attraction. She had money, resources, education, and a support system that most domestic violence victims can only dream of having. If you think domestic violence only affects certain types of women, you're about to learn how wrong you are. Jokisha had money, success, and resources, yet she still couldn't escape. Hit subscribe if you want to understand why the system failed her, or scroll past if you're comfortable staying ignorant about the warning signs that could save someone you love. This is the story of how a woman who did everything right still couldn't outrun the man determined to destroy her. This is the story of Jokisha Brown, and why her death should terrify every single one of us. Jokisha Dynasty Brown was born on July 2nd, 1980, in Jacksonville, Florida, as the eldest of 9 children. From an early age, she displayed the kind of ambition and determination that would later propel her toward success in multiple industries. After graduating from Ribault High School, she worked various jobs throughout Jacksonville's Southside neighborhood, gradually building a reputation that would extend far beyond her hometown. Her natural charisma and striking beauty made her a standout in everything she pursued. By 2010, Jokisha had outgrown the confines of Jacksonville and made the bold decision to relocate to Atlanta, Georgia, to further her career. She wasn't content with just one path to success. She pursued multiple avenues simultaneously with remarkable dedication. As a Georgia resident, she obtained her real estate license with Keller Williams Realty, building a client base while simultaneously chasing her entertainment dreams. Her colleagues described her as someone who approached every opportunity with professionalism and an unwavering work ethic. Her modeling career flourished as photographers noted her ability to transform in front of the camera, embodying whatever emotion or character a shoot required. She secured roles in independent films, including the 2010 crime drama Queen Pin, where she played a woman who takes over her drug-dealing lover's business after his death. The tragic irony wasn't lost on those who knew her. She also appeared in the television series Fatal Attraction in 2013, a show about dangerous obsessions that would mirror her own life in the most horrific way possible. But Jokisha's most important role was never captured on camera or listed in any real estate transaction.
Working out, I'm tired as ever. Let me tell y'all something that I really, really hate. And ladies, I know you guys are going to be able to relate. Fellas, you're not going to really be able to relate. But, don't you hate when you use like public restrooms and stuff like that? You know, we have to squat. I mean, we can't sit on the toilets and you accidentally piss on your leg. I did that so many times. It's so annoying. I just wish I could walk around with my personal toilet because I'm tired of I just be going there being in a rush with her and I just be squatting and sitting like that, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh shit, I'm pissed on my damn leg. I get tissue and wipe it on up. Okay, I know. I should have kept it to myself. It's frustrating. Don't you wish you had your own portable toilet? No. I wouldn't want to carry a toilet with me. I'd take that back too. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Well. Okay. I don't think this was smart. Bye, y'all.
As the oldest of 9 siblings, she had stepped into a maternal role early in life, becoming the family's backbone through difficult times. When one of her brothers found himself homeless, it was Jokisha who opened her door without hesitation, providing food, shelter, and the emotional support he needed to complete his high school education.
I can't believe somebody took my brother away from the family. I want to thank everybody for helping us. I just still can't believe somebody did that. Can't believe it.
Her generosity knew no bounds, and she consistently put her family's needs before her own ambitions. The relationship that motivated everything she did was with her son, Jack Collier, born on September 17th, 1998. She affectionately called him Noodles, and he meant the world to her. Every career move, every financial decision, every sacrifice she made was with Jack's future in mind. She worked tirelessly to create opportunities and stability for him, balancing her demanding career with the responsibilities of single motherhood. Just 4 months before her death, tragedy had already struck the Brown family when Jokisha's brother, 28-year-old Marlon Lewis Bryce, was shot and killed on March 2nd, 2016. The shooting occurred around 1:20 a.m. in the parking lot of the Silver Fox Club on West Beaver Street in Jacksonville, following a fight that had spilled out from inside the establishment. Jokisha and Marlon were only 11 months apart in age, making their bond exceptionally close, and his death left her devastated and struggling with grief that she would never fully process. The details of how Jokisha Brown first crossed paths with Alfredo Capote around 2014 remain somewhat shrouded in mystery, but friends recall they met within Atlanta's vibrant entertainment scene. Capote presented himself as a successful businessman with valuable connections that could potentially advance Jokisha's burgeoning career in modeling and acting. To someone working hard to establish herself in a competitive industry, his offer of guidance and support seemed like a blessing rather than the curse it would become. He appeared charming, well-connected, and genuinely interested in helping her achieve her dreams. In the beginning, those close to Jokisha noted that the relationship appeared loving and supportive, with Capote showering her with attention and gifts. He would attend her auditions and photo shoots, offering what seemed like genuine encouragement and professional advice. Capote created the impression of a devoted partner who was invested in her success, someone who understood the entertainment industry's demands and challenges. Jokisha, always focused on building a better future for herself and her son Jack, may have seen in Capote not just a romantic partner, but a potential ally in her professional journey. However, what initially appeared as caring concern slowly began to reveal itself as something far more controlling and dangerous.
Mystery in Atlanta that is of particular local interest. Detectives are still trying to solve the killing of a Jacksonville native shot to death in a parking lot.
This happened Friday night as 35-year-old Jokisha Brown was sitting in her car. People know her as Keisha. Police still don't know who pulled the trigger. Channel 4's Ethan Calloway spoke with a man who knew Brown personally.
It was a shock, it was sadness, and it was a hurt because I knew her personally.
Kevin Sapp says he knew Keisha Brown from her time living in Jacksonville. He says the initial pain of finding out she was killed near her home in Atlanta was only made worse learning how she was killed.
She was beautiful inside and out. As you can see the pictures of her, how beautiful she was that way on the inside also. Just a real sweet, kind-hearted person.
Police say the 35-year-old was shot and killed as she sat in her Mercedes outside of Northeast Atlanta's strip mall Friday night. The aspiring actress and model would have celebrated her 36th birthday the very next day. Detectives are still working to find the person who shot her, along with a motive.
Don't know why, because she was not that kind of person to make enemies. So what happened to her, I don't know why. It still bothers me and it's hurting me now.
For Brown's family, the loss is all too familiar. Keisha's brother, Marlon Bryce, was killed in March during a shootout at Jacksonville's Silver Fox Gentlemen's Club. Sapp describes the legacy he says Brown leaves behind.
Someone that you will always remember, that you'll never have something bad to say about when they're gone. When that person gone, you will remember that person the rest of your life.
The excessive phone calls started subtly. Capote would frequently contact Jokisha to check on her whereabouts, framing his surveillance as simply wanting to hear her voice or make sure she was safe. He began showing up unexpectedly at her appointments, claiming he just happened to be in the area or wanted to surprise her. These behaviors, which he disguised as romantic gestures, were actually classic stalking tactics designed to monitor and control her movements. As the relationship progressed, Capote's helpful career advice slowly transformed into criticism that undermined Jokisha's confidence in her own professional decisions. He began isolating her from friends who had been supportive of her career, suggesting they were jealous of her success or had ulterior motives. This isolation tactic is a textbook strategy used by abusers to cut victims off from their support networks, leaving them increasingly dependent on their abuser. Friends who managed to maintain contact with Jokisha noticed her vibrant personality beginning to dim as she became more anxious about Capote's reactions. Financial control emerged as another warning sign, with Capote allegedly involving himself in Jokisha's business affairs and questioning her spending decisions. He would scrutinize her real estate transactions and modeling payments, claiming he was helping her manage her money more effectively. Perhaps most alarming were his rapid mood swings. Charming and loving one moment, explosively angry the next over seemingly minor issues. These unpredictable emotional shifts kept Jokisha walking on eggshells, never knowing which version of Capote she would encounter on any given day. Most insidiously, Capote used Jokisha's career ambitions as a weapon against her, promising to introduce her to important industry contacts if she complied with his demands. He would threaten to withdraw his support or sabotage her opportunities if she didn't follow his rules about where she could go, who she could see, or how she should behave. Like many victims of psychological abuse, Jokisha likely rationalized these behaviors, attributing them to stress or passion rather than recognizing them as dangerous precursors to the violence that would eventually follow. April 7, 2016. Marked a day when Alfredo Capote's escalating abuse transformed into something far more horrific than anyone could have anticipated. What transpired wasn't a spontaneous outburst of violence, but calculated and methodical act of terror that would haunt Jokisha and her family forever. Capote arrived at Jokisha's home in Duluth, Georgia, in the early morning hours, while her 17-year-old son Jack Collier was also present in the house. What began as what appeared to be a home invasion would soon reveal itself as something far more personal and devastating. Jack was awakened from his sleep by the terrifying sight of a man holding a gun to his face, demanding to know the location of money they claimed belonged to Alfredo Capote. The teenager was bound to his bed while the intruders searched the house, constantly threatening him with violence if he attempted to call for help. In his later 911 call, Jack would describe the horror of that morning with a maturity far beyond his years. The attackers kept asking about money, claiming it was hidden somewhere in the house for Alfredo.
Ex-boyfriend labeled a person of interest in a Jacksonville woman's murder in Atlanta is in custody a year after the crime. Jokisha Brown was living in Atlanta trying to start her career as a model and an actress when police say she was murdered.
Alfredo Capote is now in custody in Louisiana, charged with the armed robbery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and aggravated sexual battery of 35-year-old Jokisha Brown this time last year. Investigators say Capote Brown in her Atlanta home with her son present, then kidnapped her, took her to a hotel where he again. The next day, police say she was able to escape and get help from a stranger. Just 3 months later, Brown was found murdered inside her Mercedes outside a beauty salon. Capote was named a person of interest in the murder. Brown was well known in her hometown of Jacksonville, graduating from Ribault High School.
Keisha! We love you! Keisha! Oh, God!
Her friends and family gathered for a vigil just days after her death, saying she was a kind and uplifting person. Now, Capote was arrested in Shreveport, Louisiana, on charges related to a counterfeiting scheme. He remains locked up on a $600,000 bond, and at this point, it's unclear when he will be extradited back to Atlanta to face charges in the Brown case.
But Jack had no idea what they were talking about. The most shocking revelation came when police pieced together what had actually happened that night. One of the supposed intruders terrorizing Jack wasn't a stranger at all. It was Alfredo Capote himself, staging an elaborate robbery to disguise his true intentions. While his accomplice kept Jack restrained and terrified, Capote was in another room, subjecting Jokisha to unimaginable trauma, sexually assaulting her in her own home. The staged robbery was nothing more than a cover story to explain away what was actually a premeditated attack on his ex-girlfriend. After the assault in her home, Capote forced both Jokisha and Jack into a vehicle, effectively kidnapping them both. During this terrifying ordeal, he robbed Jokisha of personal belongings while continuing to threaten both their lives. Jack later told authorities that the attackers claimed Capote had over $500,000, money they were supposedly looking for throughout this nightmare. The teenager's confusion and terror were evident as he tried to process why these men believed his mother was hiding such a large sum of money. The nightmare continued as Capote separated Jokisha from her son and took her to a hotel in Cobb County, where he allegedly assaulted her a second time. Throughout this extended attack, Jokisha endured not just physical violence, but psychological torture, being held against her will and living moment to moment in fear for both her life and her son's safety. The charges that would eventually be filed against Capote included rape, armed robbery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and aggravated sexual battery, a litany of violent crimes that painted a picture of calculated cruelty. In a moment of extraordinary courage that would define Jokisha's fighting spirit, she seized a fleeting opportunity to escape her captor during transport. As Capote drove with Jokisha still under his control, she made the life-or-death decision to jump from the moving vehicle rather than remain in his clutches. This desperate act, risking severe injury on pavement rather than staying with her abuser, speaks volumes about the level of danger she perceived and her determination to survive. Injured and traumatized, Jokisha flagged down a passing stranger at a gas station who became her lifeline in those crucial moments. This Good Samaritan provided immediate assistance, helping her contact authorities and reach safety while Capote fled the scene. The stranger later told police that Jokisha was lying in the floorboard of their car, too terrified to raise her head, obviously distraught and frightened as she recounted what had happened and identified who was responsible for her ordeal. In the immediate aftermath of her escape, Jokisha had to deal with not only her physical injuries, but also the overwhelming trauma of recounting her assault multiple times to different law enforcement agencies. She provided detailed statements to police in both Gwinnett and Cobb counties, where different aspects of the crimes had occurred, believing that the system would now protect her from the man who had terrorized her. Despite the humiliation and pain of reliving her assault through official reports, Jokisha persisted because she trusted that justice would prevail. Warrants were quickly issued for Alfredo Capote's arrest on multiple felony charges, including rape, kidnapping, armed robbery, and aggravated sexual battery. However, the legal system's response revealed dangerous gaps that would prove fatal for Jokisha's safety. While warrants existed for Capote's arrest, the coordination between different jurisdictions created confusion and delays that allowed him to remain free. Gwinnett County had jurisdiction over some charges, Cobb County over others, and federal authorities were also involved due to Capote's existing fraud case and bail violations. This jurisdictional maze meant that no single agency took complete ownership of ensuring Capote was captured and held without bond. The lack of coordinated response between agencies created a perfect storm of bureaucratic failure that left Jokisha vulnerable. Each agency assumed another was handling the manhunt, while Capote exploited these gaps to evade capture for months. The federal system was focused on his financial crimes. Local police were overwhelmed with their own caseloads, and the U.S. Marshal Service hadn't yet prioritized his capture as a violent fugitive. Meanwhile, Jokisha was left to navigate her daily life, knowing that her attacker was still free and potentially watching her every move. The 3-month gap between Jokisha's assault in April and her murder in July represents one of the most dangerous periods in any domestic violence case. Research consistently shows that victims are at highest risk of being killed when they attempt to leave their abusers or after reporting them to authorities. Yet this critical knowledge rarely translates into proportionate protective measures or urgent law enforcement response. Jokisha had done everything the system told her to do. She reported the crimes, cooperated with investigations, and sought help from multiple agencies. Protective orders, even when obtained, become meaningless pieces of paper without proper enforcement mechanisms and immediate consequences for violations. Jokisha's case exemplifies how our fragmented approach to domestic violence creates vulnerabilities that prove fatal for those brave enough to seek help. The system failed to recognize the lethality risk she faced, treating her case as just another domestic dispute rather than a potential homicide in progress. Friends reported that during those 3 months, Jokisha lived in constant fear, changing her routines and seeking shelter with different people. Despite having reported Capote to police and having active warrants for his arrest, Jokisha continued to voice her fears that something terrible might happen to her. Her friend Jordan Jackson later told reporters that Jokisha steadily voiced it. She feared for her life, that something might happen to her during the difficult breakup period. The system's failure wasn't just bureaucratic incompetence. It was a death sentence for a woman who had already survived one attempt on her life. Every day that Capote remained free was another day that Jokisha lived under a death threat, and the authorities who were supposed to protect her seemed powerless to prevent the tragedy that was building toward its inevitable conclusion. July 1st, 2016, began like any other day for Jokisha Brown, but it would end in tragedy that no one could have fully anticipated. At 10:41 a.m. that Friday morning, she posted what would become her final message on Facebook, a heartbreaking reflection on facing her first birthday without her beloved brother Marlon. "I thank you, Lord, for truly showing up in my life always," she wrote, asking God to order her footsteps and bless her with wisdom to make great decisions. The post continued with a painful request that revealed the depth of her grief. "The only thing I would love to have for my birthday is just have a fun, loving dream tonight about my brother Marlon." Her words carried the weight of someone still processing tremendous loss while trying to maintain hope for the future. "First birthday, without you, God, please give me strength, because the very thought makes my stomach weak and these eyes water," she continued, adding that she knew crying could cleanse the soul. This poignant message, posted just hours before her death, showed a woman grappling with grief, but still finding reasons to be grateful and optimistic. She had no way of knowing that her prayer for strength would be tested in the most horrific way possible that very evening. As evening approached, Jokisha followed her regular routine by driving to a beauty salon on Cheshire Bridge Road in northeast Atlanta. Getting her makeup professionally done was part of her birthday preparation, a small luxury she allowed herself before what should have been a night of celebration. Security footage would later show her arriving at the salon around 7:30 in the evening, greeting the staff with her characteristic warmth and spending approximately an hour inside discussing makeup options. The stylists who knew her as a regular client would later describe her as being in good spirits, excited about her upcoming birthday celebration. What Jokisha couldn't know was that someone had been watching her movements, learning her patterns, and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. David Espidia, who worked at the Red Snapper restaurant in the same strip mall, would later tell Crime Watch Daily that he spotted her in the parked Mercedes around 9 p.m. as he was leaving work. He noticed a man standing by a sign who seemed out of place. Someone who was better dressed than most people typically seen in that area. The detail that stuck with David was the man's expensive sneakers, which seemed incongruous with someone just hanging around a strip mall parking lot. At approximately 9:15 that evening, Jokisha returned to her Mercedes SUV after her makeup appointment, settling into the driver's seat to check her phone or perhaps respond to birthday messages. The strip mall parking lot was still active with other businesses open, providing what seemed like safety in numbers, but would prove to be a false sense of security. Tong Vong, still inside the Red Snapper restaurant, heard what he initially thought were fireworks celebrating the upcoming 4th of July holiday, but his friend quickly corrected him, recognizing the sounds as gunshots. The brutal efficiency of the attack suggested not a random act of violence, but a targeted execution carried out by someone who knew exactly where to find Jokisha. Multiple bullets tore through the driver's side window, striking her repeatedly at close range before the shooter fled the scene. The methodical nature of the shooting, approaching from behind, firing through the passenger window with deadly precision, then disappearing into the night, indicated careful planning and surveillance. This wasn't a robbery attempt or a crime of opportunity. It was an assassination. Tong Vong and other witnesses rushed outside after hearing the gunshots, finding Jokisha's shattered Mercedes with the window blown out and Jokisha still moving slightly inside the vehicle. "I didn't know she was like trying to breathe something," Tong later recalled, describing the horrific scene of a woman fighting for her final breaths. A bystander recorded the chaos on a cell phone as friends from the beauty salon learned of the shooting, but there was nothing anyone could do to save her. Within moments, Jokisha Dynasty Brown was gone, the victim of what police would later describe as a calculated murder carried out by someone who had been hunting her for months.